Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Tonight on Q2, a Billings daycare under scrutiny as parents protest outside.
Even if it's just like a 0.01% chance that he could be doing something to a kid, that's enough to say, get him out of there. Like, why is he still living there? Why is he alone with these children in the first place?
An employee accused of sexual assault against a 3-year-old, and this isn't the first allegation.
So many children could have been saved, didn't have to go through this.
We'll dive into the details of this disturbing case, plus the end of an era.
It's a sad day. I mean, this has been a staple in our community.
After nearly 60 years in business, Village Inn Pizza has closed its doors for good. Well, good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ RIesinger. Happening right now, a protest outside that Billings daycare where an employee has been charged with sexually assaulting a toddler. Take a look at this video just into our newsroom. This is the scene on Avenue D right now on the city's west end. Parents and others say they have gathered to shine a spotlight on Luis Contreras, who's been released after posting a $50,000 bond. Contreras is charged with sexually assaulting a 3-year-old, and court documents also list another girl who told authorities that she was also assaulted at the daycare facility. Up until last week, Contreras lived at the daycare with its owner, Kim Redding, who previously operated the Kids R Us daycare in the Billings Heights. As we reported back in 2018, that daycare came under fire when a 6-month-old was left alone in the building after staff left for the day, turning off the lights and locking the doors. MTN's Casey Conlon is at that rally, and he'll bring us a full report on the allegations coming up in just a few minutes. After posting bond, Contreras was once again arrested this morning on a felony charge of assault with a weapon. He was arraigned this morning in Yellowstone County District Court and pleaded not guilty to that charge. Shortly afterwards, Contreras posted the $25,000 bail, and he remains out of jail tonight. A Sydney, Montana pastor is back in the news after being arrested for driving under the influence and carrying a concealed weapon while under the influence of drugs. J.D. Hall was pulled over last week after police say he was driving erratically and showed signs of impairment. They say he performed poorly on a sobriety test but did not register any alcohol in his system. Hall is pastor of Fellowship Baptist Church in Sydney and the founder of an online publication that reaches thousands of conservative readers. He was sued for libel earlier this year by a transgender activist who accused him of lying about her and making threats against her attorneys. Hall then filed for bankruptcy, which stalled the libel suit. A man's behind bars tonight in Fergus County, accused of hitting and killing a pedestrian with his truck, then fleeing the scene of the accident. Happened around 3 o'clock in the morning Saturday, several miles northwest of Lewistown. The name of the 20-year-old driver has not been released, but Montana State Patrol says the victim is 23-year-old Justin Lopez. Lopez was killed when the driver of the truck hit him on a curve in the road. Both speed and alcohol are believed to be factors in the crash. That driver is facing a charge of negligent homicide.
Doppler radar showing this stronger cell moving across Golden Valley County, off into Muscle County from Rygate over to Roundup. This certainly has some lightning. That's what you see in the blue here. Stronger cells that could produce up to half-inch hail. So be aware that this system is going to punch through, and with wind gusts to around 50 miles an hour, certainly could see some tree limbs affected as well. Saw a stronger cell coming off the Bighorn. Sheridan, you picked up some rain earlier, and then additional rain coming off the mountains. As we make it through the evening hours of tonight, we still have some streaks of moisture moving across, so the potential for some of these storms to create some pockets of heavy rain, gusty winds, and hail remains. We'll talk more about it in a few minutes.
It's the end of an era today for one Billings staple, as Village Inn Pizza, which has been around since the late 1960s, locked its doors for good. That decision came as a surprise for many Billings residents and even some employees. Arlena Howder has the story.
Village Inn Pizza has long been a local landmark here in Billings. It's served generations of families. Well, now the restaurant is no more. It's closed its doors for good.
Iconic is perhaps the best word to describe Village Inn Pizza, a restaurant that served generations of families.
It's iconic pizza for Billings.
But after 55 years of serving the community, the restaurant is officially no more.
I am depressed about it. It was a staple to to Billings.
Several Village Inn employees posted on social media that the business closed unexpectedly on Sunday. Workers say they learned the news in a text message.
Really sad to hear they are closing their doors. I'm sad for all their employees.
Ryan Hendrickson is one of the restaurant's biggest fans. He recently moved back to Billings after 28 years away.
One of the first things I did when I moved back was came on down here to Village Inn and got myself a Village Inn pizza.
And the restaurant also conjures up nostalgic memories for others. Aaron Thompson grew up just 2 blocks away.
Some of my best memories are riding down here on my BMX bike and picking up a pizza back when they wrapped it in tinfoil.
Like many restaurants, COVID-19 took its toll on Village Inn Pizza, and the pandemic was followed by a worker shortage that forced the restaurant to only serve takeout.
Even as COVID took over, we would order from here at least once a week usually.
But not all hope is lost.
My dad, Neil Stokes, built Village Inn Pizza.
Sherry Sones is vowing to save the business. Her dad not only built the restaurant, she worked here with her siblings. The Marshall Special was even named after her brother.
I'm going to see what my brother and sister and I can do to bring it back.
Good news for the restaurant's many fans who can't believe it's suddenly gone after more than half a century of feeding families.
I quite frankly don't know how I'm going to live without this place.
In Billings, Alina Howder, MTN News.
A true sign of summer. Construction season is beginning to kick into full gear in the Magic City. Today, the Montana Department of Transportation announced it has restarted construction on the Yellowstone River Bridge, which is a main part of the Billings Bypass project. The area remains closed to the public, but officials hope to have the bridge work completed by the end of this summer. That bridge is the second of 6 total Billings Bypass project segments. Once the third phase is done, that being the railroad overpass to the south of the new bridge, people will be able to drive the new connection between Lockwood and the Billings Heights. That phase is expected to get underway later this year, but will not be done until 2024 at the earliest. The price of fuel is something many Montanans and Americans just can't ignore. Whether you drive to get to work or drive for your job, it's hitting all wallets right now. MTN's Jane McDonald takes a hard look at diesel prices and the effect on Montana truckers.
What a difference a year can make, but Montana truckers are all too familiar with change and adapting.
So the trucking industry, wow, they've been, especially this last 2 years since the pandemic, holy cow, have they been our heroes.
Dwayne Williams worked for the Department of Transportation for over 30 years and is now the CEO for the Montana Trucking Association.
They're the backbone of our economy. They transport most all of our goods. And when the price to deliver the freight goes up, it really affects all of us.
Most of us are feeling that pinch at the pump, but for truckers, these prices are historic.
2008, 2009, somewhere back then, we did have some very high gas prices, not quite as high as what it is today. And certainly diesel did not climb to the degree it has this year.
So a typical truck has about a 300-gallon tank. So if the price of fuel is $5.50, that's $1,650 it costs to fuel that truck up.
Take a look at these Montana diesel gas averages. May 16th, $5.49. May 15th, $5.50. A month ago, a little over $5. And a year ago, $3.15.
What the refinery charges us for the fuel, and then we have, like I said, a small margin, and that's how it's set. So it really comes down to us from up above.
It's been a struggle, and like I say, hopefully they can weather this storm.
And for the drivers, Dwayne hopes that all Montanans
thank the truck drivers for what they've done this past couple of years, and now it's another obstacle that they're facing.
In Bozeman, Jane McDonald, MTN News.
Now a look at what caught our eye today as we highlight the people, places, and in this case, wildlife that makes Montana so special. Tonight, we wanted to show you this video sent to us by MTN viewer Karen Howell. Karen and her husband were returning from a hike when they encountered these bighorn sheep near the Stillwater mine. They say the rams were about 50 feet away when they decided to cross the river. Karen tells us it was an amazing experience. And if you see something that catches your eye, make sure to email it to us at news@ktvq.com or or send it to our Q2 Facebook page. Still to come on the MTN News at 5:30, disturbing allegations against a Billings daycare brings parents out to protest. And in sports, a Bronc looking to always pitch a shutout. Scott catches up with Kennedy Venner as she looks to hit a home run as Athlete of the Year.
The MTN 530 News continues right after this. From Montana's news leader, you're watching the MTN 530 News.
Back to a story we told you about at the start of this newscast, a protest outside of Billings daycare where an employee has been charged with sexually assaulting a toddler. MTN's Casey Conlon has more now from Billings West End.
The group has gathered outside this in-home daycare on Avenue D to say that the justice system has failed women and children in the community. The protest comes after Luis Contreras, who lives in the home and is an employee of the daycare, pleaded not guilty Friday to sexually assaulting a 3-year-old. But this group says that's just the latest in a long string of complaints against Contreras and against the daycare's owner.
5 years ago, we tried to convict him.
Convict Luis Contreras!
The charges against Luis Contreras may have been filed last week, but even some of Luis's family members say the allegations date back years.
There was a lot of physical abuse in my relationship with him growing up, so I wasn't surprised when and then I had found out about what he did.
Adriana Contreras is Luis's daughter and says time spent with him and his partner Kim Redding at Kids R Us, another daycare Redding managed in the Billings Heights, was a nightmare.
I used to live in that house part-time. Me and my little sister did with him. He would pull their hair or get mad at them for crying and hit them.
Kids R Us came under fire in November 2018 when a 6-month-old was left alone in the building after the staff left, turned off the lights, and locked the doors. The baby's mother showed up in a panic, and eventually Redding returned to let her in.
She's guilty too!
But 4 years later, Redding is still operating at the new location, and Adriana believes the physical abuse has continued.
My daughter actually got a broken arm there. Luis was the one that broke her arm, said he fell on her or something, and after that, Adriana had reached out to me, and she said, like, pull her from there because, you know, he has done a lot of really bad things to us growing up and stuff too.
Chris Ness's daughter attended the daycare in 2021 and 2022. He eventually pulled her out of the facility because of concerns about Contreras, but the group believes Redding isn't innocent.
In my opinion, there's no way that she couldn't have known.
We reached out to her, but our calls and emails were not returned.
I can't believe that it hasn't been shut down. Sexual assault against children, and this daycare is still open. There are still children that are there.
We attempted to contact the Montana Department of Health and Human Services, which oversees child care licensing, but have not heard back. Contreras was released after posting a $50,000 bond and is forbidden from contact with minors or anywhere minors gather. According to court documents, he told investigators this was a misunderstanding and he was just checking to see if a child's diaper was wet and needed changing. None of that is enough for Adriana.
It's scary because I have a daughter now, and she's young enough to where she's in his frame of what he likes, I guess. So it's hard because I don't know where he's at.
In Billings, Casey Conlon, MTN News.
Coming up in weather, the recipe is right for strong storms right now. Ed will let you know what we can expect. That's coming up next.
The MTN 530 News continues.